Hi, and welcome to another episode of Hot Takes with me, the Silver Fox. It strikes me that some people will lay out all the available options to them, see which is the best, see which is the worst, and, without doubt, always pick the worst. And that is what appears to have happened to Liz Lloyd. She, erstwhile, the saviour, I think, of Nicola Sturgeon. Certainly her bestie, her chum, and the woman who really made her. She created a monster, of course, and the monster is now gone, but not forgotten, alas. But Liz Lloyd has taken a stance on the Humza Yousaf meeting with President Erdogan, and she's definitely come out on the wrong side, and she's being, well, mocked, really, for it. She's chosen wrongly, let's just say, and other people are sort of having a little word about it. Because obviously there's only two views. There's the right view and there's Liz Lloyd's view. Let's have a look, see what she said and see what the responses are. She's a strange woman though, Lloyd, isn't she? Anyway, here goes. So, Liz Lloyd, the butt of joke, as she defends the Chief Turd's Erdogan meeting. Nicola Sturgeon's former top aide said that some find the UK government's intervention a bit weird and a bit weak. And that's obviously someone who doesn't understand international politics. You can't have morons going around and discussing high politics and international affairs outside of what the country's official position is. And that is not weird, that is sensible. The fact that she finds it weird tells you more about Liz Lloyd than it does about sort of David Cameron and international politics, doesn't it? Anyway, Liz Lloyd has defended the Grand Mufti's meeting with the Turkish president, but her comments have led to a mocking at the hands of one of Scotland's biggest gender reform critics. Foreign Secretary David Cameron has threatened to close the SNP's network of pretendee embassies after the First Minister met with Recep Tayyip Erdogan. Miss Lloyd, who was Nicola Sturgeon's key aide during the gender reform saga, took to X to say whether this was a 30-second brush by or a formal meet. She thinks it's wrong for the Tory MP to shout about it. But of course, this is a woman talking about one thing of which she knows absolutely nothing, because it's happened before. Many of them have done this. Angus has done it as well, where they go and have these meetings with international partners and world leaders and things outside of their remit. They shouldn't be doing it, but also without an FCO policy wonk with them, either someone from the diplomatic corps or an official from the department of the Foreign Office. They've got to be there. They know the rules, and if there isn't an aid available, then you don't have the meeting. So they have done this in the past, and even at COP28, as we mentioned earlier today, there was 5 meetings like this. So it isn't weird. It isn't a 30-second brush by. It's a whole series of meetings outside of the rules. And if they can't stick by the rules, then they're going to have to pay the price. Actions, as I used to tell my son when he was growing up, actions have consequences. And that's what you have to remember. Dr. Lucy Hunter Blackburn, 1/3 of the policy group Murray Blackburn Mackenzie, who provided key evidence against the recently failed GRR bill, said, "Isn't a 30-second brush by what the XFM had with feminism?" Short and sharp. Ms Sturgeon was widely criticised for brushing off the concerns of women's rights activists, and at one stage said their views were not valid. Imagine that. Imagine saying that the views of feminists aren't valid. Remember, these are the feminists that won the very vote by which Nicola Sturgeon managed to become First Minister. That was down to feminism. That was down to suffragettes. That was down to women wanting equality. Women demanding their rights. And yet the XFM sort of said that's not important. Weird, isn't it? Only last week, the GRR bill was defeated in Scotland's highest court by the UK government, and while it's not clear how the SNP will proceed, one of their options is to go to the Supreme Court with the hope of a final appeal. Now, I did the video yesterday where it's looking increasingly likely that the fool will go and try and go to the Supreme Court. Now, some will say that it's a bad move, it's another waste of more money. I'm thinking, actually, yes, it is a waste of money, But if it provides yet another reason for the people in the party to toss the wanker out, all the better. And also, even if he does stay and he loses, which he will, he undoubtedly will lose, it will be, even then, a further humiliation and defeat for him. But then he's so used to being humiliated and defeated, it probably won't matter. Excuse me. Anyway, it is the latest UK government slapdown that grabbed the attention of Miss Lloyd. The First Minister met with the Turkish President at COP28 in Dubai without a UK official president and discussed calls for a ceasefire in the war between Israel and Hamas, totally against the official stance of the United Kingdom government, which is ultimately way, way higher up the food chain than the basically the county councillor level that Humza Yousaf is. This was a breach in the protocol agreed by the Scottish and UK governments, as mentioned. And Miss Lloyd told X, "From being in these rooms, I know other countries find the sensitivity of the UK ministers to devolve government international activity a bit weird and weak." You don't get this in the States. I mentioned it before, but the Logan Act, some like local hick governor say, he can't. He's not allowed by law to discuss international things with foreign diplomats. Not allowed to discuss anything with foreign diplomats because all international relations must go through the executive. And for the United Kingdom, the Scottish government is not the executive. It is the Foreign and Commonwealth Office, the Cabinet Office, the Prime Minister. Ultimately, the monarch. But the monarch tends to keep quiet about such things. He's allowed to by law, but they tend not to, simply because international diplomacy, let's just put it that way, it could create a constitutional crisis if the king said one thing and the government was saying something else. So what Charles will probably do is keep his mouth firmly stum. If only the people in the SNP could do the same, life would be so much better. She said, whether this was a 30-second brush by or a formal meeting, it would be better for the UK to speak to SG and sort it out than shout about it. Well, it's better if the Scottish government didn't have these little meetings and went on their way and stopped pushing the Grand Mufti of Scotland as being in any way important. The FM is not important. It's not important on the world stage. He's not the chief executive. He's not the CEO. He's not the leader of government. He's not the head of state. He's not even a senior official. He is nobody. He is a town councillor. He is, maybe a mayor. He's half the mayor of London. That's all Humza Yousaf is. And he needs to know his place. And I like that yesterday. Here, boy, sit, as Cameron called him to heel. The SNP leader dismissed the criticism of the unelected Lord, which is a bit ironic, considering he's never been elected. Cameron at least was, he won a general election as Prime Minister. The Grand Mufti, he's not been to the people yet, and he knows he daren't. He knows what would happen if he did, out in his arse. Not even guaranteed to win his own seat. That's how bad it is. So it's a bit rich from him going on about elected people. He told reporters for Lord Cameron to say he's basically going to stop Scotland's international engagement because of one meeting. Wasn't one meeting, though. Where the FCDO wasn't able to attend because, of course, at events like COP, blah, 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 blah. No official, no meeting. End of story. And why is the First Minister having international relations? Because, obviously, he's not the executive of the nation. Yeah, he doesn't work. He's a regional governor. That's basically all he is. He shouldn't be dealing with international affairs. Not his place. You got to say, useless, know your limits. Anyway, in his letter, Lord Cameron said, I remain open to discussing a constructive way forward. However, any further breaches of the protocol, he said, will result in no further FCDO facilitation of meetings or logistical support. In other words, I'll close you down and I'll clip your ass. Give him a well scalp. Yeah? Scalp his ass. Anyway, I'll finish there. Come up and we'll round off. Ultimately, it is just pride, hubris, a desire to look and feel important. But Liz Lloyd just saying, that it's unimportant. She shows that she really hasn't got a clue. because it could be incredibly important. The wrong word said at the wrong time, especially to a man like Erdogan, who, just kills people for, fun. You just ask the Kurds the terrible things he does for a bit of fun. It could set back international relations by years, and all because the moron is allowed to go off the reservation. People like him need to be controlled, or indeed locked up, or better still, sent out of the country, removed from power, and sent somewhere where they're less likely to do any damage, either in terms of political power or in societal upset, because he is really an arrogant little shit. But Liz Lloyd seems to protect him. You wonder why. She's not involved anymore. She's lost all her power. Once Sturgeon went, Lloyd had gone. Yet here she is, defending the chief turd. Oh well, it's a funny world, isn't it? I'll stop now. Thank you very much for watching. Speak soon. Take care and goodbye.